Good afternoon and welcome to episode 14 of the engines that didn't sell. Now what you're looking at here is the last remaining Enya 4-stroke engine that I have, and it just so happens to be an Enya 80 4-cycle engine. And believe it or not, this is the most neglected engine I have or had in my inventory. And you may say, well David, why would you neglect an engine? Well, the engine was neglected in my opinion because of the same way that many modelers neglect engines. It was installed in an airplane and it was ran several times in that plane, and then the plane sat for several years unattended without any kind of maintenance being done to it. And yes, I am absolutely guilty of that. The last time this engine was operated was in this video you're seeing right now, when it was flown in my Phoenix Decathlon. I flew that plane, I don't know, 10 or 12 times. I shot some videos with it, and then I put it up on the top of my workbench at the time, and it just sat for I don't know how many years. I'll have to look on the timestamp on that video to see when the last time I ran that engine was. So when I took that engine down, I took it off that plane many months ago when I was getting ready to sell all my engines, and I just never got around to doing anything with it. It was not locked up completely, but it was very tight. The carburetor barrel would not move at all. In fact, you go to turn the move the throttle arm on it, and it would just, the screw would just loosen up. So this engine was neglected in my opinion, and it was by me. So what I did was I took it out of my tote, I put it on my engine, and I took the glow plug out, took the rocker cover off, and removed the carb completely. And this is a procedure that I typically do for an engine that I know to be in good shape, but it's just stuck from misuse. Not necessarily that it's got a bad bearing or bearings, it's just stuck from long-term storage, not being stored properly and inattention. So what I did was I took those items out, put 3-in-1 oil in it, and then I used my heat gun and I heated the engine up. What I would think felt, externally at least, like operating temperature. And then I put the prop on there and I just started to spin it over with the prop, or with the glow plug out, so it would spin over without compression resisting. And I just started spinning it over just to get all the internal components hot and moving. And that's what I did. Now as far as the carb goes, I actually had to remove the barrel. Now these Enya carbs, many Enya carbs I've seen, this type G and even some for 2-strokes, tend to get locked up very easily with almost minimal sitting time. 2 weeks might be enough if you've got castor oil in your fuel to lock one of these things up. And I heated it up and I put oil in it, and it still wouldn't budge, so I ended up having to pull that barrel out, and that's when I used some, I think, 2500 grit emery cloth, and I just cleaned the barrel up like that, oiled it again, stuck it inside the carb or the carb body, and it worked fine then. But these Enya carbs are very notorious for freezing up and sticking with even very short periods of time of inactivity. So be aware of that. But as you can see, the engine did, and I did actually run this engine yesterday too, just to retune it. And I used FAI 8020 fuel, so no nitromethane. And I was basically just using it to just kind of clean out the engine and run it again and kind of retune it. But as you can see, it did run well on my Phoenix Decathlon, and it flew that plane with authority. So the reason the engine didn't sell was, well, I really can't explain it other than the fact that the Enya 80 4-cycle was the very first 4-stroke engine I ever purchased in 1988. Not this particular one, but that style engine. And so it's always kind of held a special spot in my heart. And maybe subconsciously I just never really wanted to sell it. I never listed it. And that's why that engine is still in my inventory. And you will be seeing it run here in the very near future. Thank you for watching.